staff on the boat or associated would sell extra spaces on the boat. Sometimes I was given an example, if you come, you know, you got a lot of children, because a lot of children will make up the undocumented passengers, right? You come with a family, 10 of y'all, you have 5 little children, maybe it's 10 grand, $15,000. You pass a little 5,000, you pass a 6,000, and they can let on the extra people. That's why, guys, they can't give you a solid figure of how many people were on board, how many people. All they can focus on and tell you is how many people were rescued. And I thought they were trying to I thought that was part of the cover-up, but that's not necessarily part of the cover-up. They can tell you how many people is rescued because this is the only number they know. They literally do not know how many people were on that boat. They do not know. The minister came back with a very detailed figure to tell us the tonnage of cargo on the vessel. And it's extremely disturbing to me because as of now, I have no confirmation there's any scale. That's what the people at Transport are saying. There's no scale to. They don't know how Agile came up with tonnage because there's no scale there to measure the weight of these boxes. You can have 10 boxes of cotton or you can have 10 boxes of steel. I'm quoting my friend, right? And it's gonna go as a box. They measure it based on the space. They pack the cargo hold downstairs. Now, it's a cargo hold, but I'm told they had a canteen down there, and people would be traversing the area, right? So it's likely some people are trapped down there. Freezers with chicken, vehicles, engine, you know. This thing was serving a whole region. It's like loads of goods and frozen meat and all kind of thing that you could pack in a boat. Plus, air freight was very expensive, so people tend to pack the boat. Other first-hand accounts have had people that have traversed that route. When you get on that boat, typically, wherever you are, it's so packed and cramped that people say, like, where you are, you end up staying there. There, people would have been in hammocks that are trapped. So I am pretty sure as the picture has become clearer to me, I am become more sure that there are a lot of people trapped in that boat, right? A lady on the top deck reported that boxes fell on her when the boat started to lurch. So imagine what was happening downstairs in the cargo hold. It also sounds as if the boat may have been top heavy. Now, I was also told by staff from Transport and Harbors and people that worked on that vessel that it leaves overloaded almost every single time, right? Almost every single time that vessel leaves, it leaves overloaded apparently. So that, again, I don't know how the minister was able to determine that it was not overloaded. There's some pictures that have emerged of the vessel leaving port on the 18th. And passenger account seemed to suggest it was overloaded. When you look at the water line relative to the line of the deck, it also looks like there wasn't much clearance. There's a vertical distance between the water line and the edge of the deck that's your breathing room for when you go into turbulent waters and water starts splashing over the boat. Today, I'm sure many of you have seen the videos flooding social media that showed just how precarious that boat was in the water from a much earlier period in the day. Water was sloshing over the deck. I saw an additional video, I think it was posted to Murdoch London's page or a gentleman named Dan. I'll get the name, but this was of a week ago, and you could see the, excuse me, you could see the floor of the boat was covered in water as it was traversing. So I'm more of the opinion now that this was a suicide mission that these people were sent on. It was a suicide mission, and every trip for the longest time has been a suicide mission. There's another clip surfacing from a parliamentary session in which Minister One Edgell is lauding. He's speaking about the arrival of new boats, right, which we spent billions of dollars on, and he makes mention that the new MV Militia would be replacing the MV Barima and the MV Kimbia. Additionally, after that, they brought in another boat. It was called the MV Calliope. Right? Now, billions of dollars spent on these boats. They were supposed to replace boats like the BARIMA, which, as we all know by now, is 87 years old. It was meant to replace it. I found a number of articles at this point where the minister directly says that these new boats are to replace boats like the MV BARIMA. Yet we find ourselves in 2026 with that boat still plying the trade. I found a line item, like I think it was in April of this year, that even though we got that MV Malicious, a new boat, they're already advertising for hundreds of millions of dollars to repair it. So I'm starting to wonder if there's some sort of racket or hustle going on. I went to look for the MV Calliope. No, first I looked for the MV Militia. I can't find that. It's showing me that it parked up somewhere in Georgetown at the wharf there. That's when I went to search on the vessel tracker. Any of you, the IMO number is on Google. You search for MV Militia. Look for the IMO number. That's the vessel tracking number. See if you can locate that vessel for me. But it placed it not where it should be, plying a trade route. I looked for the MV Calliope. That appears to be docked in Tamari, somewhere down there. So we spent billions on that boat, brought it to Guyana. It was supposed to be replacing another one, replacing BARIMA and Kimby, the other boat, right? But it was only used, to the best of my knowledge, it was used for remember the party that the president and friends them had on Fort Island? To the best of my knowledge, it was only used to transport people to the government party, and then it gone and it knock up there in the river. It's been parked. They did like a ribbon cutting thing, typical of these white elephants. They showed you some fancy seats in the boat, but I had an assessment that was given by a captain that said the boat is like there's an open deck. It doesn't have a lot of space for passengers. There is no cargo hold. There is no place for crew to sleep, especially given that the boat would have to travel like overnight to get to Northwest. It's not appropriate. And then it's one of those front-loading vessels, so the bow of the boat has a door that opens up like that. You could drive on and drive off. We have a tidal system in the river. So imagine this is the river down here. Normally the boats have a side loading doors so they can just pull up to the wharf and offload the cargo and stuff. Now this one is from the front. So imagine parking in a channel like this, and the forces of the water come in against the boat, like you can struggle to keep stable. We don't really have wharf facilities for both sides. It's like a white elephant that costs us billions of dollars and parked up while people died for want of it. And all of these things have been advertised to us as, you know, big shiny promises. Now, I know that many people have said, I saw messages saying that people are trying to get political capital from this. No one is trying to get political capital from this. I'm really sorry to inform you that this entire issue is political. This was not a private boat. And even if it was a private vessel, it would still be a political matter, because it's a matter of government to regulate the activities of the private sector. So you can't have a vessel that's plying a trade and ferrying passengers on a river in dangerous conditions and be a regulatory body unto yourself. The government is duty bound to regulate the industry. Now, if the vessel is attached to the government and a department of the state and a ministry of the state, it is invariably a political issue, because the person that are supposed to administer to the boat and make sure that all the rules are followed and the safety apparatus are up to date, and if it has life rafts, they go to the right place to get tested and the life jackets are replaced in a timely manner. Those persons are political appointees. So I'm very sorry to disappoint those of you that wish it was otherwise. I too wish it was otherwise, but this is the reality of the matter. It is a political matter, and to seek remedy to this issue, we have to speak to the politicians in charge. That is the truth, or we will get no change. I'm sorry for those of you that it upsets. So that's one thing down there, right? Now, speaking to these persons from the funeral parlor, sorry I jumped around there. It seems that on that whole coast down there, I see they've been taking some of the bodies to study, right? Now, one of the gentlemen I spoke to, he informed me that they have space for about 15 bodies down there. On the west coast, I calculated maybe another 30 people or so. Then, so like, where does one place 100 plus bodies? Because I just explained to you how these extra people ended up on the vessel, and unfortunately many of them sound like they will be little children, because those are the smaller people. They move on there and don't log in the manifest. People pay a smaller amount of money. So how do we store all of these bodies? How do we give them a dignified funeral? The people that we can't find. I still think we should be searching actively. Exxon and these companies have a fleet of helicopters that go to their rigs, and those are rescue helicopters, I'm made to understand, with winches. Why haven't those been requisitioned and asked to assist with this search? Why is it that Newsroom is only posting within the last few hours that some fishermen excuse me, some fishermen have found the location? Did you guys not know the location? That corroborates what I would have told you yesterday, that this passenger vessel that's run by the state had no locator on it, right? As vessels are supposed to. When I went to the Vessel Finder website, I can see fishing boats out there. I could see little cargo vessels out there. All manner of boats. So why is it little fishing boats have that, and a vessel that's actually transporting cargo, human cargo, doesn't have it? And that's why I think they have some GPS and they have a compass, but it's not a live location. And obviously if you go down somewhere or you start drifting, it's very difficult to send your location in the same way as this AIS system. So that's disappointing. I hope coming out of this tragedy, again, we don't seem to implement things after tragedies to make sure that they do not happen again. Like the fact we just almost lost another orphanage or another set of children because there was no directive coming out of the Madia fire that every single children's home or facility as housing children should have a sprinkler system. Coming out of this here, every single boat that's attached to transport in the harbors, all of the ferries need to have an AIS. I will join my colleague Darwin Best in calling for the minister to publish the credentials or the papers, the certificates for the people operating these vessels.